What's the big idea?
Rodman, we are live with episode number 38. Welcome, everybody, to Volleyballogy Uncensored, even though we don't swear. Right, Eric? Eric's just busy looking up stuff about Dennis Rodman because we were talking about, Dennis Rodman. For anybody out there, we've both been rewatching The Last Dance.
Yeah.
The Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls documentary about the breakup of the Bulls. Because, you know, as hosts of a, you know, globally, like, massively famous podcast. Like, we have over let's be honest, folks. We have over 600 subscribers.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So we look up greatness because, and we're also preparing for some big name guests that we're hoping to have down the road on the show. So just watch for that. Hopefully that happens and that this doesn't just, if not, I'll edit this out.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, but today, what are we talking about, Eric? You introduced the topic today. Let's change it up.
Ooh, okay. We're going to talk about beach volleyball.
That's not really how I introduced the show's topics.
But do we know what we're going to call it? The basics of beach volleyball?
Yeah, the basics of beach volleyball.
Okay, we're going to talk about the basics of beach volleyball.
Yeah, because there's a lot of players out there who are going into beach, right? And there's a lot of parents that have their kids going into beach, and they might not know the difference, and it gets intimidating. Every season you go to the beach and see a few players looking over in surprise at the ref or someone calling them, and they don't know why they got called. And it's probably because they didn't have a show like this to learn the basics, the differences between the beach and the indoor game. So that's why we're here today.
Yeah, I mean, if they just go and play a few tournaments, they'll kind of figure it out on their own too. But
you started that sentence with meow. Well, yeah, playing is learning for sure. But I mean, some people don't go into beach, Eric, because they're intimidated. Right?
Yeah.
They feel like they've missed the boat. They don't know. They're saying they're like, I don't even know what the heck they're.
Why'd you have to say a boat?
Boat?
Yeah. What are you trying to?
What's wrong with saying
trying to make a reference?
Beach boat.
Oh.
Is that what you're saying?
No. I just thought you're
boat. I don't understand. Is that?
I just thought you were being racist. That's all.
Oh, okay. Yeah, your mind always goes there. See how I won that? No, but boat. It's funny that you associate boat like an immigrant. Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I think immigrants fly here now, Eric.
My grandparents came here on a boat.
Your grandpa. Yeah, that's true. Oh, Eric. This is where Eric's like, I'm not racist. My parents were white immigrants.
Yeah.
Just kidding. You can be racist and non-white. I think we should establish that for the listeners. I think there's a myth in the world, right? We don't want to get political, but there's a myth in the world that you can only be racist if you're white. And I'm here in 2023 telling everybody that that's not true. You know, I am a brown-skinned person, and I am racist.
I should have kept my mouth shut.
Yes, you should. I'm not racist. Hey, I'm not racist. That's the last thing in life. You don't want to be in a position to be looking in a camera and saying, I am not racist. Because that usually means that you are a little racist.
My headstone will say, I was not racist.
Here lies Eric Jansen. Not a
racist.
In quotation marks. So he says. Anyway, we're off topic again because Eric.
But right.
So
basics of beach volleyball. So making it more relatable, because if that is something that is intimidating people from not getting in because they're unfamiliar, then hopefully, and even if you are familiar, maybe we can just kind of talk about the game in broader, simpler senses that it kind of makes you excited to try it out. Or some of the obvious first difficulties that you'll likely encounter when first getting on the beach. Because again, like if you are when you do run into an obstacle, what is easier, running into it when you weren't even expecting it at all, or if you're already aware of it a little bit and then you encounter it, it's probably easier to deal with if you're already kind of aware of it, I would think.
So you're saying knowledge is power, Eric?
Yeah, maybe.
I think that's what you're
like if someone's going to be racist to you, but you don't know it.
What? Oh, it's better to be racist, yeah.
And then you're like, oh, so like thrown back. But if you're kind of like aware, like, oh, this person might say some things to me.
Well, my kid, I told you that. My kid had a little racist stuff happen in elementary school. And I said to my wife, like, hey, listen, this is good. Nice early exposure. Teach them how the world is, right?
Now, do kids even know, like, when they...
So sometimes I would be racist. I would be racist against my own kid just to teach her about racism. Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Just to get them... Yeah. So how did you go about that, though?
I said, sit over there, brown-skinned girl.
But then she's like, you have brown
Well,
skin.
I want to teach her about, injustice too, right? That's the whole lesson.
But it doesn't work if you're...
If I'm what, Eric?
If you're...
Yes? Excuse me? Anyway. Okay, so let's get into the structure, right? Because there's structure and rule stuff.
Yep.
So let's talk about, if we're going to go with the basics of beach, what's the most basic thing that you can think of?
There's, it's 2-on-2. 2
No.
versus 2.
Wrong.
What?
Incorrect.
That's
the most basic is that it's played on sand.
Oh, well, okay. Those are both very, okay, sure.
They're very what, Eric?
What?
Very
Basic.
basic.
So.
Right? You're basic. You've heard the basic expression lately.
Sip my latte.
Yeah, there you go. Starbucks. Starbucks a sponsor? No. We don't let Starbucks sponsor the show.
No.
Not healthy enough. They're not as healthy as Porsche and Cheetos.
That was right. Yeah, exactly.
So anyway, structure played on sand, so it makes for obvious things. Played outdoors, right? If it's played outdoors, big difference.
AVP finals were played in a stadium.
Yeah, that's cool. The indoor beach game. Yeah, but
And
generally speaking,
yeah, but also, yeah, I mean, in the Olympics and high levels, they kind of build stadiums up to kind of dome some of the wind out.
But it makes swirls.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It kind of will make make the wind worse.
Humans humans cannot harness nature. As much as we like to think we can, we can't harness nature because we are nature.
True.
Anywho, so that's a little too bleak for the people. But anyway, so the outdoor. So that means that wind matters. That means that sun matters.
Huge factors.
Yeah, and so
Heat.
one of the things, heat, and one of the things though that we do to account for that, so something that people might not be familiar with, is in beach volleyball we switch sides every 7 total points scored. So if it's 5-2, 4-3, 6-1, 7-zip, side change, and that confuses people, indoor players.
Yeah.
Because they don't understand that. And even sometimes, a lot of players will come out and they'll be like, oh, but it's not windy today. Well, it doesn't matter. There's sun. And sometimes there's subtle wind. A lot of players think that it's not windy, but when the ball gets up in the air, there's something happening there. So this is called the good side and the bad side on the beach. That's where I wanted to start personally, because I think the wind, people don't understand that you want the wind in your face.
You're a good side, bad side person.
I'm a good
every
side,
day.
bad side. Yeah, my
I
front.
never know what you're gonna be like.
My front is much less appealing than my back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
why did I agree?
it depends. Why did you? Yeah, that's weird. You're like, yeah. You can say that again, Zuby. No, so so on the beach, a lot of players don't know good side. They think that the sun matters more than the wind. It doesn't. The wind is the number one factor. If the wind is in your face, then you can hit, swing, serve harder, and it's much better for you as a player. Versus, picture yourself if you have the wind imagine if the opposing team is serving into the wind on you, and we've all had this where the balls are just dying right in front of you, so you think you've got it, but the ball does some funky stuff because the wind is hitting that ball. Makes your float serves deadly. You can spin serve hard into a good breeze, versus if the wind's at your back, then you're often sending the ball out the back of the other team's court because it's blowing everything.
Better when
you
it's
hit
in
harder.
your face.
So you want the wind in your face. That is the good side. So that's number one. Then sand.
Yeah, that's the
movement in the sand is huge.
That's probably the biggest intimidating factor for us every year getting back into it, because it's not an intimidating. It's just like, oh, gotta get used to it again.
Yeah,
the timing, and then you become more athletic, endurance wise, you have to be. Well, because you're also there's just 2 of you, right? So you're running around all over the place.
Even shagging the ball on the beach the first few weeks is
even warming up.
Yes,
warming up is I
know.
So when you go to a beach tournament, you're gonna be eating a lot of food probably just because you're burning through, and you want to
although the heat, that's the mistake a lot of players make, because the heat kills their appetite, so you find that you're not eating well.
True,
and at the end of the day you get a migraine or you're exhausted because
I don't actually eat too much.
It's hard to eat at a beach tournament.
It's hard to eat a lot at any tournament.
True. Well, indoor you can have if you have a long sit, but I find the heat outside makes you less hungry.
Yeah,
You know
but
what I
you
mean?
have to eat. Like I had even like a few, just one tournament last year. I didn't eat enough, and I was still eating, but like by the end of it,
Beach or indoor?
it was beach.
Yeah.
And I was definitely feeling the lack of energy, right? So
I have to force
tricky
myself
little things.
to eat. I force myself to eat on a beach at beach tournaments.
Yeah.
And then I don't have the big.
But you have like a lot of reserve, so.
I'm talking about when I was in my prime, Eric.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Eating.
You're gonna give me an eating disorder. No, when I was young, like I had to force myself to munch all day, so that way I wouldn't get the migraine. Because I always had migraine.
Yeah,
so I always had
yeah.
the hydration problems.
I think I don't know this is completely anecdotal, but I think like eating stuff like fruit and stuff like that during a beach tournament. I don't know if it actually helps your skin and stuff like that, because this is one big problem with beach is like the sun. Not to necessarily to play in, but to just like not hurt yourself. Like getting a sunburn is really bad.
It's true.
And as a kid, I used to like, your parents really can't control you. And I used to just like, I thought I had it on, or I didn't apply it enough. And sure enough.
Sunblock?
Yeah, I used to get burnt
Yeah,
a
I'm
lot.
torn on sunblock. I'll be honest with you. I don't know, man.
I agree. I don't want to use it that much. But the thing is, when I'm playing a beach tournament, I have to.
Well,
especially the UV gets so intense during the midday.
Yeah, but that's because you didn't build up the base before.
Oh, right.
So if you go from like, so we live.
I'm not brown, man.
Yeah, but also we live in a part of the world where like you can build up a base slowly, right? Like, so we live in a place where it's winter. This matters, right? Like if you lived in Southern California or you lived in Hawaii, and you were constantly having a little bit of exposure. I mean, this is why people get bronzed, right? Like,
well, that's why,
white
it's your
people,
body's natural defense.
and the pigment kicks in, and they don't get burned as much because they are, So in our neck of the woods, where a lot of people listening might have a winter, they should probably go for 10 minutes in the sun, 15 minutes in the sun, 20 minutes in the sun, and then the next
tournament is like 6-7 hours.
But that's what I'm saying. So you build up to that.
This
is like people going on vacation.
Agree,
Same thing. People going on vacation. What they do, smart people, before they go on vacation somewhere south, where they know they're gonna have the shirt off for like 8 hours in the sun, they will go tanning up here, right? They'll go tanning, a little bit of exposure, build up the skin, because sunblock is actually making your skin, it's protecting you from sun exposure and UV rays, which I think is going to be a problem. I think what happens is then your skin is not getting the natural exposure it needs to build. It's just like anything else we talk about on the show. Yeah, natural exposure. Strengthening because your body now is shutting off anything that it would naturally provide in the sun, because it's getting artificially protected.
But if I'm going to be playing beach volleyball and I don't have it built up yet, I have to do a combination of a little bit of
keep your shirt on, right? A lot of people will keep their shirts on to protect from UV, right? But if you're going to go shirtless, then you got to lather up some fake plasticky, oily, toxic substance that your body will absorb slowly over time.
I'm not disagreeing with you. Yeah.
Okay, so so it's played on sand, and there's the good side, bad. But you have to. No, in fairness, I'm living in La La Land. You have to protect your whatever you're doing, especially if you're you are jumping out there for a long time. You better put something on.
Well, it's just you have to get to the point, and like what I try to do is in the morning games, I don't really put it on or whatever. I'm wearing a hat, and then once it's like at that peak UV, I kind of have to put it on.
Yeah, exactly.
Until
they say you're supposed to put it on before you get in the sun. So I remember in days, even when I played, I lived in the time where nobody talked about sunblock as a problem. So, but I put it on the morning of, right? And then you put your shirt on, you go to the tournament, and then when the shirt comes off and all, after the screaming's done and all the women, stop screaming, then you are sitting there and you're in theory protected. Then you have to reapply. Yeah. And hopefully you get the non-stick type. But again, I'm not a huge fan. I think sunblock is like
the same. Yeah. The good thing is, like, when I do wear it, I only really need to put it like on like my nose and like my shoulders. That's pretty much and
the
like
high points. Yeah,
and like everywhere else, like I wear. I started actually wearing a visor, because they usually have like the foam thing. Because like when I wear a hat, a lot of hats don't actually have the foam absorbent.
Yes,
you know what I mean. It's like the sweat gets in my glasses.
Sweatbands and visors.
Yeah.
Good, yes.
The sweatband visor is awesome. But that's the only real area that gets burnt. So I guess the rest of me is getting the UV, which is the healthy thing, and the skin doesn't really fry. But it's always the shoulders.
It's interesting to me how we kind of. Excuse me. Sorry, I just dropped my pencil. It's interesting to me how we just sort of except when they tell us stuff over and over again, like, oh,
Sunscreen
UV bad,
is weird.
UV bad, UV bad, UV bad, UV bad.
No,
Yeah.
UV is known to be good for you, but
I know,
also,
but if you ask anybody who is watching these commercials about sunblock and stuff, then UV bad, UV bad, UV bad.
Right.
But
So
now,
dose, like dose
dosage
matters
stuff.
huge.
Yeah.
Like just like with any food or vitamin or whatever you're gonna take, like there's an optimal amount, and like if you get too much, like I'm peeling right now because I was out playing beach last weekend, and like we're just coming out of the winter, so my skin is not ready for it.
Yep.
And I played between the hours of 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. I didn't put anything on.
Yep.
And I had a pretty good burn.
Yeah.
I was like, my skin wasn't ready for it though, right?
Yeah.
It was a sunny day.
I get burned too. To answer your racist claim earlier that brown people don't get brown people and black people do burn in the sun.
Caramelize.
White people don't seem to think that, but we burn. I get bad sunburns too. But there's a good way to ease yourself into that, right?
I wish I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the thing, right? That's our impatient society. We just rush to like, give me that plastic liquid. I'll buy it. How much does it cost? I'll buy it.
Oh, but it takes time and weather depending, like to actually build it up, right?
I know.
That's the problem.
I just don't think that sunscreen's healthy.
I don't think it is.
There, I said it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at. Anyway.
Yeah.
I think that, and I know that people are listening and they're like, oh, but skin cancer, my relative is skin. Well, so I'm just going to say this one thing, okay? I don't know any.
It is a controversial topic.
Well, any of my beach volleyball friends that I grew up with, we were all shirtless for years, playing beach volleyball, different parts of South America, here in Canada.
Yeah.
I don't know any of them got skin cancer. I don't know any pro beach volleyball player in my life. I mean, I'm sure there's some out there, but I didn't know any that got cancer. We were in the sun way more than most people, which brings sort of my theory of,
Well, sun's good for you.
Well, sun is, how can that?
How can it not be?
That's I used to tell my students this all the time. I was like,
we know that it initiates your circadian rhythm.
Are you interrupting me again?
I am.
I think you interrupt me too much.
There's just not enough discussion about it.
I know I talk a lot, but you should let me speak.
Okay.
I used to tell my students that.
Here goes another story.
One time when I was 4, I used to tell my students that think about this. Okay, they have us believing. They meaning corporate entities have us believing that the sun, the giver of life, is evil, deadly, and it's going to kill you. The thing that if there's one thing in the universe I could pick, that is the giver of life. They used to worship the sun god, right? Apollo and sun salutations in yoga. People worship the sun, and we're like, no. See that thing up there? Deadly killer. But we have this liquid plastic that we've invented that you can lather on your skin. How long has it been around for? Because humans, humans may have been around for thousands to millions of years, depending on your religious beliefs. How many years has this been around for? About 30 years. Is it expensive? It sure is.
With Zuby.
Do you make money off it? Sure do. Sun's a deadly killer? Yes. How did all the humans survive all to this point? Bed sheets and wraps.
It's so weird.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're off topic again.
I just don't think there's enough discussion about it. It's like it's turning into you're on this side or that side nowadays, and we're totally getting off topic. But
everything.
Yeah.
So you're saying
it's all related.
Nuance is another word that everybody likes to throw around today. We're having a nuanced discussion.
What is it?
Nuance is the idea that there's a gray area, and can we not live in the gray and discuss that everything's not black or white, or everything's a little bit not so clean,
Well, there's more of a story to this. It's like we are talking about it. Like you need to build it up. It's not just like you put sunscreen on or you don't. Like I know,
but we're nuanced. We're okay with difference. You love sunscreen and being racist.
I don't love sunscreen.
I like how you were okay with the racist part. I just said that you love sunscreen and being racist. And you're like, hey, I do not love sunscreen. You just totally were okay with the racist part. Okay. Well, I guess that's how you was raised. Okay. So, no offense to Ingrid and John Jansen.
Oh, man.
Oh, I just outed your whole family. Now they're going to get letters. Okay. So the rules are different on the beach. Let's get back to this. Enough about your personal problems. The beach. What is beach?
We had too much coffee.
I don't know.
So sand,
sun, outdoors, wind. The good side is wind in your face. Sun, if there's no wind, then of course sun becomes secondary. Like if there's zero wind.
The wind in your face is good for the serve, but then you still have the added difficulty of the pass and the set. Now, that's balanced out because it's just a different direction, whether it's in your face or to your back, right? But that's a challenge.
That is a challenge, and you have to adjust for how you play in the wind, for
Yeah.
sure. Like whichever way the wind is blowing, and this all sounds like we're giving a metaphor. I prefer the wind at my back, whichever way the wind is blowing. These are all like, philosophical things. But yes, so if the wind's in your face, that's good. And then that means that the balls that the other team hits are going to flow a little deeper, which means like if they're hitting at you, you're going to leave things that are close.
Yeah.
If the wind is at their back.
The wind is the factor that can really, that's the one that can actually change the outcome of the game, or you can use to improve your chance of success.
Yes. So when you win the coin toss or something, or rock, paper, scissors, wherever you're doing ball spins, when you win the choice on a windy day, you shouldn't really ask for serve or receive. You would choose good side, bad side, right?
Yeah.
So you would choose the good side. So if it's windy, choose the side with the wind in your face, because there are whole matches where teams will barely win a point on the bad side.
Yep.
So it really makes a huge difference. And I don't know why it's not talked about. I see a lot of beach coaches, and I will coach players that have been working with professional beach players that I know, and they come to me and I'll say, well, you'll know what's the good side or the bad side. And they're like, and they don't know. Now, maybe they weren't listening, but I don't think people are talking about this enough for young kids on beach volleyball. So that's good that we mentioned that. But we don't want to dwell on it.
Right. And then, if there's, because the wind isn't always like in the direction of the court, but like it can be on certain angles.
Side to side.
And you can take advantage of that.
You can.
Right. Like even when you are, it's slightly on your back, but at an angle, that just means you can set the ball to the other side of the net where you're actually hitting the ball into that cross vector of the wind.
Yes,
and
that's
that really
true
is, that's a huge advantage.
And serving it on that angle.
Serving
that's
on that
cool
angle
to do.
Yeah. That's really great.
Sometimes you'll find elevations on, if you're playing on a real beach, there might be a little slope to something, and you can even like pick the little sides a little higher, a little off. Good tournaments obviously wouldn't have that, but but it can be. They're dunes, build up sand dunes. Well, I like to build up a mound. No, because then it's there for the other side when you do a side change. The wind though, I like the side to side wind movement. You've seen that too, where there's tournaments like if you're playing on a beach where there's water or ocean or lake right there. Some teams, like if the wind is really extreme, you won't even run a forward set or a back set. You know what I mean? Some teams will just always keep running the players on the same side. So if the wind is
always hitting into it.
because you don't want to set setting with it, because you don't want to set into the wind either, right? Like so if you're setting your partner, let's suppose my partner's playing on the right side and the wind is blowing like crazy, I won't push my sets into the wind for them. We might just say, it's so bad, I'm just going to back set you all day and you run around, because that way my sets will carry nicely.
Yeah.
So you will see some teams doing that, where you'll just abandon setting into the wind at all. So that's a little more advanced, and that's something else. But for basics.
Rain. Rain's the next one.
Rain. What types of things can change in the rain?
Well, if the wind is the one thing that can really give you an advantage, I suppose rain would give you an advantage if you're experienced at playing in the rain, but it doesn't. But that's just because you're more used to playing.
I love that movie, by the way. Playing in the Rain.
It's great. Yeah.
Playing in the rain.
God.
Play. Anyway. Sorry.
So wind can give you an advantage?
Yeah. Oh, you were talking about rain.
I know. And rain is like the difficult thing that you need to figure out how to play in. And then,
so what's a problem for you in the rain?
Well, it hits you in the face when you look up, because it falls from the sky.
Right, and you don't want to get it in the eye.
Yeah, you don't want to get it in the eye.
A little rain in the eye.
Yeah, so you may end up using your forearm pass and also your bump setting.
Bump setting, yep.
Yeah.
Or close your eyes.
And just
no. Well, yeah.
Even like serving can be a little tricky, because you kind of have to look up. So it might even change your toss a little bit, or you're going to keep it nice and like a lot lower. Mm-hmm. So just the angle that the rain's hitting you at, like that. So if it's windy and rainy, I mean, the great thing is you have the wind coming at you to serve into, but you also have the rain coming right at you to serve into. But And sometimes the elements, when they're so bad, it's just a matter of literally just getting that serve over. Like,
yeah, when
still
it's
trying
really
to get
bad.
it tough, but like,
No, 100%.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can't.
and then you have to be ready for some scramble volleyball because the ball might end up coming over in 1 or in 2 or some weird stuff. The rain really changes. They both, wind and rain, both can really change.
I think too, like just going back to what you said, I really want to highlight the bump set because like that's a major difference, right? Indoor, if your setter bump sets, everybody loses their crap because you should never bump set, almost never as an indoor setter.
Yeah,
but on
you're
the
gonna
beach,
get triple blocked.
on the
right?
beach, it's highly acceptable to
Absolutely,
bump set
because there's only one blocker.
Yeah.
So
And are you interrupting me again?
Yep.
Okay. Because there's a lot of talking over with you. Like, yes. Mm-hmm. Even when you're agreeing with yes. Mm. It's a subliminal thing we do. It says, no, that's okay. No, I'm just checking.
okay.
I think it's subliminal for the listener. They think, yeah, I don't know why I always agree with this guy. But it's because Eric's doing these yes. Anyway, the bump set on the beach is acceptable. Right? Because a little more control. You might need to push it in the wind. It can throw off some blocker timing, but also it's just a more acceptable on the beach to bump set because the hand setting rules are strict. Getting into that on the beach, we tend to have less forgiveness on the beach with hand setting historically than we do indoor. Like you might be watching an FIVB match or an AVP match and wonder why sometimes you're wondering why the ref blew the whistle, and it's like the split second hold. And this is something else like. There's old school beach players who used to deep dish their sets when you bring the ball down quite low with their hands, but that's gone now. People don't realize that. I still see some people playing beach and they try to hold the ball and bring it down and push it down. They're like, what do you mean it's the beach? But I'm like, that's 1985. Like that's gone now.
You still see it on the AVP.
Yeah, if somebody holds the ball a little long though, they're gonna get called these days.
Yeah,
like back when we played, like anybody who played when we were playing, if they were to try that today, like the refs, like the kind of the wording is on the beach now too. If the ball stops for too long on that set, and that's like a conscious attempt to get rid of the deep dish, right? Because now, like you might go to a tournament and someone's still doing that, and everybody thinks it's off now, right? Whereas in '95, in the '90s, people used to deep dish standard, right? So it's changed 100%.
It's just not as deep anymore.
Yeah. There's a lot of elbow. There's a lot of elbow in beach setting, and hands and less wrist. I find like you're almost elbow pushing ball up.
Definitely less wrist. Yeah.
Whereas indoor is all wrist, right? Because
Yeah.
you're pushing. So there's a huge difference there. The ball itself, we forgot. The ball is different on the beach. The ball it feels a little softer, less inflated. It's definitely not as hard as an indoor ball. And that helps it in some way. It sometimes feels heavier.
Is it less inflated or is it just the material? It definitely feels different.
Yeah. Well, it's definitely like a softer ball is what I say. It feels less inflated, but you definitely wouldn't pump a volleyball up to be a rock. Like some players want the indoor ball needs to be a little more of a rock. I would say, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Because the weight of the ball, it just feels like it's heavier. It feels like it's
the beach ball. You can kind of direct around a bit more, especially like with your forearms. When you're digging or passing it, you kind of have the ability. It's a bit mushier, which gives you the ability to.
Yep.
But I think that's also the reason why the set is the way it is because so when you go try to set this ball like an indoor style with the wrists, you're actually more likely to kind of mess it up, which is kind of weird.
Well, because there's sand dunes and wind, and your footing can be weird.
Well,
that's why I think the bump set's more used too, because there's a guarantee of not clean contact, right?
The setting in volleyball is really all about your foot positioning, getting under the ball and being stable. That really determines the outcome of your set. Big time. Whereas like, in indoor, you can kind of be off balance and like, cause you're just very much using the wrist and you're snapping it out. Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
I find beach passing to be easier to.
Yes.
I find that beach pass because in indoor you have to be so precise getting it to 2.5. That's like the position in between the middle and the right side up in the front court. For people who don't know, that's where the setter typically sets the ball in organized volleyball. And on the beach, the beauty of it is you can there's two ways to do it. You can go like straight forward closer to the net, which is how we all grew up passing. But today, a lot of teams have adapted to up and in the middle, and your partner comes in and sets on an angle a little more, which gives them more forgiveness too. Whereas, and some players still play the old school way where you pass it close to the net and then they're sideways to the net. The only problem with that is there's a little less room for error, and especially in that wind, you can overpass quite a bit, or the set might blow over. So there's a little more forgiveness in the up and in the middle approach, which is a cool, safe way to pass, I find.
Yeah, the creativity of your offense starts with the pass, right? Like we're seeing all these great clips now of the over on two, you know, and whether the pass is really to the middle of the court or it's straight in front of you, you then have the option to run the back set. Like that's the great thing about, the offense of beach volleyball. It doesn't have to be over on three.
Yeah, and that's shifting. Like that's become like last 5 years, beach volleyball has become so much more creative. We're seeing players do, you know, the once you crank it on two, like the nice pass that's hittable, the player cranks it on two, or they're now doing the fake spike approach and then setting it, which again, when I played, that would have been called every time, just out of the sake of, not because it wasn't clean, just out of the whole, like, you can't jump set on the beach. It was just like,
it's so stupid.
Well, same with taking it with your hands, right?
Yeah.
Like taking a free ball or serve with your hands. Now we're seeing it. People are not getting called for face passing serve on the beach. When I played, it was an automatic call. Yeah. Didn't even matter if it was the cleanest serve receive ever, you know, because a lot of the serves pre-rally point were side out volleyball. Some of the serves were lobs. Yeah. And you could totally take them with your hands clean, but they would always call it. And same with, you know, jump setting, no way. You couldn't do a fake hit. They'd just call you. Strange. It was just custom.
It was very, very rare.
Because it was not in the rule book.
Much more common now.
Yeah, the rules were never saying you couldn't jump set. You couldn't take the first ball with your hands. The rule was about spin, and they just thought, no, there's no way you're going to do it clean. It's kind of weird. But anyway, I'm kind of glad that the evolution's happened. So these players doing like, you know, back sets over the net, or like the player, because they are coming in on the angle, by the way, like we just talked about. So that setter now might just like, okay, we've missed a few points and they're just going to volley that ball right over the net, nice and clean, square to where the ball needs to be. That's a difference right there. Another basic.
I think we see it. Yeah.
We're kind of forgetting. What's that basic I just mentioned?
I don't know. What did you say?
Oh, jeez. Eric. You're not even listening to me.
Yeah, you're giving me another idea.
Jeez, you're like my wife. Anyway.
What'd you say?
What I said was that, you know, the player, because they're coming in on an angle and setting, they can volley it over because they're nice and square to where the volley. So indoor, you can volley the ball over sideways. You can be deceptive in where you're volleying the ball. On the beach, you have to be square. If you are going to volley the ball over, you have to be square to where the ball travels, whether it's forward or backward. So you can't do a sideways volley over the net in beach. That's another thing that people don't understand. Yeah. Because it's too deceptive. Because if there are two players, like Eric said early on, beach, you have to make sure there's a little more intention in where you're going with the ball, and if you could win every rally
just when it goes over the net,
just for when it goes over, and just when you're volleying it over, you can still bump it over sideways. You can do everything else, but you can't do the sideways volley. Again, it's connected with that historically clean setting thing on the beach.
So I guess that brings us into like any attack over there. Oh geez, my voice.
Want me to stall? I'll take the camera off you while you.
No, it's okay.
Okay,
I think I'm good now.
I think I'm gonna take it anyway.
Oh,
I'm just kidding.
Attacking. There's like no tipping, right? You have to use a closed I forget how refs like describe it. Like, has to be percussive contact.
For those of you just listening, Eric's having a hard time discerning the difference between open and closed hand. He opened his hand and said the word closed, and that confused him. So he closed his hand and said open, and then he just gave up on the concept.
Like, you can attack the ball like you do swinging, which your hand is open, but as long as you're full swinging and the ball's, you know, like an attack, that's fine. But obviously you can attempt like a really sloppy roll shot, or where you get your palm too under the ball, and then, but it's just like, it's the same with the set. If the ball is pausing for any, you know, short amount of time, then it becomes a held ball, right? So the roll shot mechanic, it has to be a swing. It has to pop off the palm, or you make a closed fist, punch it over, do pokey or a cobra.
Who punches over?
I know, I don't, but like a pokey, a lot of the time you're not going to use a punch, because like the reason why you use the pokey is, well, yeah, you probably have more control, but it's also an extended than a fist just by like an inch or two, right?
Yeah.
And then even more so, and you can control it better. And then if you really have to joust or reach or try to beat them, you can use a cobra, which is just fully extended fingers.
Yeah, hard, rigid fingers together, like a knife, where you just like hit the ball. It's kind of
there's no way you can lift a ball like that.
Yeah,
right? There's no way you can lift a ball off the pokey.
And the wording really on the beach, like the real.
Well, I guess you could try if you're really good at.
I need you to stop talking. The open-handed tip is the wording, right? So you can't use an open-handed fingertips, the pads of the fingers, because again, that's too easy on the beach. Like with two players, if you were able to go up and they allowed you to just like sort of throw the ball down with a couple fingertips like you can indoor, then not throw it, but tip it down. Like with 6 players, it's much easier to cover that, and they should read that. On the beach, you can't open fingertip the ball, so that's why you can swing. You can do a roll shot, sometimes called a jumbo, where it elevates high and it drops in a corner. You can do cut shots, where your thumb down to slice the ball away, pinky down to turn it. People say wrist away, whatever, same thing. To slice the ball, and then roll shot. Pokey is the two knuckles. For those of you just not watching, if you're seeing it on YouTube or Spotify, the 2 knuckles extended, you can literally poke the ball like that. You can do like a sort of what is that called again, where you just drop it down?
That's just a pokey with 2 other fingers that don't do anything.
Well, yeah, it's sort of a pokey, but it tends to almost fall more shallow. I find, like, if you go up and you just do this, you can drop it much more shallow, whereas a pokey, I find, literally will send the ball a little further. Generally a pokey, I mean, you can do a drop pokey, I guess, too, but yeah, so bottom line is, indoor, you can fingertip, open hand tip. Beach, you can't.
You can really direct the ball in indoor, and in beach, it's just more difficult because you don't have that. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
the finger pads to be able to really flick it and control it.
Yeah, so that's illegal. But a good beach player will roll it in nice spots and poke it anywhere they want to. So another big rule difference when we're talking about this, I mean, we sort of brushed over one of the main ones. Like the court size changed, right? Beach, when I was playing the bulk of my career, was 9x9, and that's when short players could excel on the beach because they were they had a lot more open spots. They were faster getting the ball back then. And then when they shrunk the court to 8x8, that was a noticeable change, because now bigger players could play because they had a good wingspan anyway. Today we're seeing tall players who are fast anyway, so it'd be interesting to see them back on a 9x9 and see if they would still outperform the short players. But short players also could make a living back then, because that extra meter per or half meter per sideline and baseline gave people.
I can't imagine playing on 9x9 now.
Yeah, it was tiring. Yeah, it was a good way to play though. Like, it was like you could outlast people. You could swing different angles, like deep hits.
But if you had a big hitter back then, and now it's just they have more angle to hit.
A big hitter back then though had a hard time passing. So you had a big
Why?
You had a big tall guy, because you could serve them further away from them and they couldn't get there. Serve them hard down the line.
Right, but I'm sure you could have a big guy who would be a good passer.
Well, I agree. But it's just, if you can serve a tall player down low. We saw this indoor. I mean, I don't need to, Japan destroyed Canada as a team that's been vocal about getting taller. Even their liberos generally have been getting taller. They do have some other shorter players coming in now, but they have tried to use a taller player, and they got smoked by 3-1. They got aced. They got aced like crazy.
But do you just chalk that up to an issue of height?
Well, what I chalk
it's a lot more than just that.
Well, so historically, if you serve a tall player low, hard, fast,
but that's just the ability of
they have a harder time. No,
player.
No, but there's a time travel. Just like you're literally time and space, right? Like getting down there to pass the ball up. And this is why historically liberos have been shorter, right? And there are some people who are trying to go, they think tall libero might be the way to go because wingspan, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of liberos now that are over 6 foot.
They are,
it's very common.
Yeah, but I think that they're going to have a hard time long term, because I think when people figure out that just getting down to pass a ball is easier and faster. You just have a little more time to get there.
Yeah,
and if you stand there, because
Micheletto is a left.
I'm not saying that there aren't going to be good ones. I'm not saying that tall players can't pass. I'm just saying that. So in the reason why tall players didn't do well on the beach in a 9x9 system historically for 40, 50 years was because they couldn't get to the ball. Now, that was a different training era. Today, maybe they could. Like I think Phil Dalhouser proved that he played a defender in a tournament this season. Last season, right, where he played with.
I think I think the athleticism has improved overall. Hence why we're seeing more of this jump setting, because it requires a higher level of athleticism and control to be able to do that.
And the reffing changed. Like I mean,
like just part of the contribution of it.
Yeah, players could have done it back then. They just were going to get called every time. You couldn't jump set on the beach,
right? But it's not easy to do, right? It's like,
I mean, for pro beach volleyball player, it's pretty easy to do a jump, a spike approach up into a set.
Yeah,
right? Like you could do it, I could do it. Like, so it's not like, I just think that the reffing would never allow it back then. You know, the purists, that's what it was. Like, you don't think Karch and, you know, Randy Stoklos and...
Well, you did see them do it sometimes, actually.
Never saw them jump set. I mean, if they would just...
I definitely saw a Karch jump set. Like, very, very rarely. Very rarely. But
I don't know. I think it would be like, I don't know. I don't think I saw it. But anyway, but the refs would just call it. The other team would be up in arms, and the ref would feel tremendous pressure to call stuff for sure. But what was the point of that? The size,
the passing, court size.
Yeah, the court size has changed dramatically, and that's when we saw a shift. That's when tall players started coming out on the beach, rightly or wrongly, whatever they could have done before and didn't do. It just seemed a little more. That's when the shorter players started disappearing on the beach a little bit. I mean, there's still short players out there that are doing very well. But that's what really allowed the taller player to get into the game more, because it was considered that, you know, you were scrambling all over the court, and the shorter player could benefit from the bigger court. Let's put it that way, right? The shorter player preferred having those extra inches to hit the ball, because you didn't have to hit it down as much, right? So you could survive on the beach, right?
Now, why do you think they shortened it for more? Because, you know, games evolve, right? Sports are always evolving with small rule changes. Mm-hmm. And this change stuck. I'm assuming it would have taken a lot of consideration, but was it for the betterment, the growth of the sport? Was it to get more viewers? Was it to make it more competitive?
I think more rallies. Better rallies.
Yeah, more exciting rallies, possibly.
Yeah, because it was a little boring, because you could have a whole match. You know, we've played matches like this where you're winning the whole match by rolling into the corner, cut shots,
close, right?
So they wanted more cranks, they wanted more digs.
Yeah,
and it could have been that maybe the indoor game, the height of players was getting there, and they noticed kids like so.
Yeah,
one of the things that internationally they always try to do is they try to make beach as appealing as possible for indoor players. So they try to bridge the gap between the games a lot of the time. So that's probably why the hand setting rules have relaxed, by the way, on the beach, because they found that too many indoor players were coming out and saying, what the heck is this? And then never playing again. So they started, I mean, there was talk even recently, and we'll get to another rule change in a minute, but there's been a lot of talk of making beach even more like indoor, and the purists lose their poop because...
Oh, the hand passing off the serve?
Hand passing off the serve.
Which you can do. We've seen it now.
Well, and it's...
When the serve's so easy.
Yes.
But
purists don't like it.
It's very rare to see
the block touch has been talked about. Like, why are we... Like, so one difference parents might not know about and players might not know about if they haven't played beach is that on the beach, a block touch or soft block, the block that, you know, that counts as one team contact.
I love that rule. It's great.
Team, well, that's one of the unique things about beach. You only have two more contacts. So if I'm up there blocking and I get a touch and my partner digs up the ball, then we've already had two team touches, as opposed to indoor where the block doesn't count as one of the team touches. So there's been talk a few years ago, the FIVB was wondering, should we do some experimental things where that's not a touch? Because if you think about it, I always did think it was kind of interesting. I love it. I prefer it. But I always wondered, it's kind of interesting because you only have two players. So it's almost like a double whammy, because not only, you know what I mean, you almost think who needs the
if anything, the first thing I'm thinking.
If anything, the beach players need the extra touch versus the indoor players. But yeah, so that was one of the things. So there's another rule difference, but I forget what I was talking about before that. But rule touch. I wasn't listening.
Well, we were talking about like the
rule changes, why they did it, to
possibly the face pass off the serve now.
Yeah, just talking about trying to make it. Yeah, they tried to make indoor as appealing. Beach as appealing as possible because they notice a huge drop off when players try beach.
Right,
they don't stick with it, and so that's why
that's not something that's tracked though. You know what I mean?
What do you mean, sir?
Well, how do they know? That means if they know that people don't stick with it, that means they're tracking the numbers. And I don't think anyone's tracking this.
Yeah, for sure they are. Like governing bodies do. For sure. Governing bodies want to know why we're not getting beach participation like we're getting indoor participation. Governing... Like
I guess from a business point of view, right? That's
business
what you want.
And just
especially places where you have winters or whatever where you go from indoor to beach, like
it wouldn't concern the average person, but like organizations will wonder why they're not getting viewership, right? I mean, when it's a business, like you said, and just they want to make sure that players aren't, they want them to play volleyball as much as possible. That's sort of how they get their funding too, by the way, right? Don't forget. So if you're like a governing body of volleyball and you don't see players playing beach, then that means that you're not getting the funding. Like you'll get more funding if more people play. So then their goal is to get people to play. So,
but if you grew up in Brazil, you're just gonna play both all year round.
Yeah, if you're not playing soccer
and soccer, or all three.
Yeah.
So crazy.
Mm-hmm. So eliminating barriers, and that's sort of what we're doing here today, right? Like we're kind of trying to make people aware of things, like you said off the top, so they're not afraid of it and they play more. So we got the block counts as a touch. We got the good side, bad side.
Yeah.
We got the playing it outdoors and how the sun can be a factor. We got court dimensions are different now. They're 8 meters by 8 meters, or the feet thing. I forget the feet thing, but that's what the international bodies go by meters, right? So, is it 30 feet? Yeah, 30 feet.
Well, that would be 9 meters is 30 feet, right?
Yeah.
So it's just under that. Well,
30 feet by 60 feet? 30 feet by 60. So the whole court is 60 feet down the sideline by 30 feet wide, if we're talking about, especially the American system. And we talked about the no open hand tips.
26 feet and 3 inches.
Oh, 26 feet and 3 inches.
Mm-hmm. That's 8 meters.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Okay, interesting. What else would we say? So we got the dimensions, good side, bad side, double contacts are called more frequently. We talked about different types of shots. I mean, so one big thing on the beach, if for players, they'll wonder why you don't need to crank the ball to win the points on the beach all the time. In fact, a lot of indoor players come on the beach and they just keep hitting and hitting and hitting, and they wonder why they're getting blocked and dugged. The idea with beach is a little more chess involved.
Well, if you hit it, just don't hit it at the block. But
if you don't hit at the block, then that's by definition
where the
defender should be definite. In theory, should be there, and we'll talk about why in a second. But a lot of indoor players just keep cranking, and they wonder why they don't have success. There's a ceiling to their success, even if they're great hitters, and that's because there's a little more chess involved with beach, in terms of they're trying to goad you into things. The other team is trying to. Good teams are trying to get you into doing certain things, and if you do those things that they're goading you into, then they win probably, because they know what you're going to do.
Well, so you're getting into the whole strategy.
Yeah, well, what I mean is the goal on the beach as a basic is to get the ball onto the sand any way you can. Yeah, that's a good message I will tell young players. So it's not like indoor where you want to show everybody how hard you can hit. You need a good hit to roll well, to hit different shots well. So the idea is to get the ball in the sand, and if you have an ego about it, then you will probably miss out on a lot of free opportunities there.
Yeah, and I mean the objective is this exact same in indoor. Get the ball to hit the court, right? Or force a difficult play. But
it's just there's not many open spaces indoor, so cranking matters more indoor.
Exactly. Your power of your attack.
Roll shot and win much indoor.
Yeah, your power of attack matters more in indoor, right? Yeah. To either get it high off the block or force a difficult dig, because
variety matters on the beach.
Yeah.
Right? You can't be a one-trick pony on the beach.
No, because then if you just hit all day, then the defender can cheat and just be in that lane ready to dig you up.
And blockers can pretend. Blockers can trick you. Blockers will make you think on the beach a lot more, because it is one blocker, so there's a lot more freedom for that blocker to do some things, right, where they're not expecting help. So a blocker will take away things that you think are open on the beach a lot more. And So that's why there's a ceiling sometimes. So you want to make sure that you mix up your shots on the beach. This is why beach players come indoor and they tend to excel too, because they are varied in how they can do things. I played indoor against some really high level beach guys, and they just made everybody look like fools with roll shots indoor. Like, you know, it's kind of crazy.
I don't know if we mentioned this in our show about why indoor players can benefit from the beach, but a big thing, the difference between good beach players and like just kind of beginners or great beach players is kind of their awareness of the court, and that awareness is dependent on taking your eyes off the ball and actually looking like where even your teammate is, but especially where the other team is and where the open spots are. Now, not to say that we don't do that in indoor, but I think in indoor it's easy to fall into the tendency of being ball oriented, just focusing a lot on the ball. But that also would differentiate great players in indoors, taking your eyes off the ball, because then you can, and we do this as attackers and defenders, and we see peripheral, right? We see where the block is, or we see the lane, or we see the defender down the lane, right? And then that influences our attacking decision. But in the beach, I think that's critical to get used to taking your eyes off the ball, especially when your partner passes the ball and you know the pathway of the ball and where it's approximately going to go. So move in that direction, and while you're doing that, you can take a half second to go look, and then keep moving, and then put your eyes back on the ball, and then make your set. But that may actually influence where you set the ball, or give you the opportunity to do that cheeky, back set type thing. And it's the same thing for the attacker. And this was the hardest, I think it was one of the most difficult skills for me to learn when I was getting into beach volleyball, was as an attacker, seeing the set, seeing the arch of the set. Therefore, I know where I need to go, and then getting used to just taking my eyes off it just for a split second, and I see the attacker and I see the defender. And it for sure, it's not easy. At first, it kind of screwed me up because maybe my guess of the trajectory of the ball wasn't the best, and so then I would jump, but I'd be off just a little bit. Or I would get caught looking too long off the ball, and then it would kind of mess my swing up a little bit. But still, I definitely benefited by taking my eyes off the ball and looking, because my tendency when I first got into beach was to just swing. Like, that's because I was an heavily indoor oriented, hard hitting player. That's always been my strategy. And then, exactly like you said, teams adjusted to this, and then the defender no longer had to play games with me. He could just sit in the open lane, and I would just get dug a lot. So that forced me to, okay, I need to diversify my offense. I need to but the thing is, I couldn't, my first mistake after that was just diversifying without looking, right? And so I would diversify, but then I would either be giving away too many cues, or they would realize, oh, this guy is diversifying, but he's not looking, right? So then you can, as the defender, you can just wait. And then maybe they're hearing the call my partner's talking, which we haven't mentioned. And then they would hear that call, and I would follow the call, and I would hit line after it's called, and then the defender goes. And so things like this. But then after that, I learned, okay, I actually need to make a look. I need to look. I can't just be like, oh, I'm going to hit line, and then I'm going to hit cross and do like that. That'll work 50% of the time, or a lot less. Against a good team, right? Because also, if you're going to be doing this, you want to hide your shots as best as possible, right? And then so you want to make it look like you're going to swing, and then you can slow your arm down and then go for the roll shot. But I think we were just, because this is turning into quite the speech, but Eric's now talking himself through his strategy. But I think the key is the looking, like the looking. That was my So the key is and this comes with chemistry. So the better, like you said before, like once you know your part. This is why beach partnerships, like that's a whole other thing. Like the beach partnership is so different than an indoor you know
team.
Where the set's going to be.
You know each other not only mentally, but like your same commitment level. I know parents listening to this, like, man, to find a kid that's just as interested in beach as your kid is like winning the lottery. And then once they get out there, to find that they get along and that they aren't like blaming. Like, holy smokes, it's getting harder and harder to find, I think, the more we get into the Instagram online scrolling world. But once you do know your partner really well, and I think you guys are heading there, then you feel so much more comfortable with that. Okay, I'm going to take, here's my pass. I'm going to look already.
Yeah.
Right. See where they are before well, my pass is up there. And then as soon as my partner sets, I take that peek and then do my approach, right? Or while I'm in the approach, even take a peek before I actually make the later you can peek, the better. And
that's the other thing.
And then you got easy points, because it's like, I see where they are. I see, because there's that, the best defenders wait as long as possible.
Yeah.
Before they cheat. I know there's a whole school of thought, like in beach volleyball, where as a defender, you should not leave early ever. Just decide on 2 parts of the court that you're not going to give up a point, and you give them a third part, but they don't know what that is. And then in your head, though, I'm ready to go here and stay here or go there. That's it. And then I'm going to give them that. I'm not a fan. I'm a fan of, like, as a defender, I read. And as soon as I see like the last minute turn, like, again, you don't go at the first turn, because a hitter that's going to give you like so much of an angle, good beach players who are going like this are never going to hit it there. You know what I mean? But you can start to fake them out to make them think that, okay, I think you're going there, but really I'm pushing off on that foot to go this way. It's like crazy chess.
And all this happens within
split seconds,
a fifth of a second.
And you're both playing this silly little game of like, and then Eric mentioned the partner call. So that's another critical thing. On the beach, after you set the ball, your job as a setter is to yell to your partner where to hit that ball, like line, cross, high line, over, usually means just go over the block with a roll shot. And that's based on, after I set the ball, I have to look where the backcourt defender is on the other team. And if I tell my partner, so if they are set up on the line, I'll tell my partner, cross. And my partner can listen to me, or they can crank it line, or they can go roll across, whatever. But a lot of great defenders will listen to those calls, and then they'll start to go where that's where you start to call the ball. So some teams get into like, okay, whenever I give a call of cross, then you do the opposite. And then that works for a couple points, and then they keep, so there's a whole lot going on among those 4 players that's just not there indoor. And some players can get confused by that. So, but I think the key takeaways are, like, hitters need to start peeking at defenders, and then maybe that's more advanced. Maybe that's not a beach basic, but it is something that you might run into teams doing it to you, and it might add to your frustration. Yeah,
I think I mentioned it just because it's the sooner you can get on that. Like,
no, 100%.
I know it's definitely not a basic, but
But
why not bring it up to them?
Yeah, it is something they'll encounter. No, that's what I was saying. Like, it is something that I think they need to know, because they will play in a tournament and they'll wonder why they're getting smoked by this good beach team. And that's one of the things that they're doing.
Or you just have that feeling that the other team knows, knows exactly what you're going to do, and it sucks. And that's what's going on, is they're just looking more.
Yep.
And you mentioned it's the communication.
That's the other big one. Yeah.
I think I even became a much more vocal indoor player after getting onto the beach.
100%.
Right.
Yep. Well, I mean, so we can take one concrete example. Sorry, did I cut you off there? Were you going to say a story? Or?
Well, no story this time, but just 2 different reasons. Not only providing information to teammates, but also its positive role of like, hey, communicating. It also lets them know where you are location-wise on the court, because sometimes when you're both looking that way, like, I might be behind my partner, but he doesn't know where I am. They don't have time to look, so I'll give an auditory signal. It's like, hey, I'm here, and then now they know where they can position, and then and where I am.
Well, I mean, that's sort of where I want to go next with it too, is the signaling. So beach, the communication. So when your team is serving, the communication between blocker and backcourt defender is vital, and everybody's watching on TV, and they might see some hand signals that they don't understand what's going on. Basically, one finger means what, Eric? The blocker is giving the sign usually. Sometimes the backcourt defender might give a sign that of what they want their serving blocker partner to do. Yeah. Sometimes, but generally speaking,
the server is the blocker, then the defender will make the call.
Yeah, but generally speaking, so if the blocker is telling their partner, one finger down means
blocking line.
I'm blocking line if I'm at the net, and that means my partner knows that eventually I will be blocking line. I might be faking in the meantime, and that means they should dig cross court. So that's how we cover the court. And that's where the opposing team, so picture this, if you picture one player blocking on the line and another player eventually going to dig cross court, you as the setter on the other team might call for your partner to go over my block, or high line, sometimes they call that, which means over me as a blocker, roll it into the corner for an easy point. That defender, though, might be listening to that call and start to cheat over if they hear that, in which case the hitter, if they're looking,
these are the games
of beach volleyball, can hit it into that open corner that player vacates.
Well, maybe this would be a basic
but let's finish that communication. So
go ahead.
We got the line call is the one finger block.
Right.
The two finger means that cross court,
blocking cross.
That means that I'm blocking cross court. My defender will eventually try to head towards the line or set up line without giving it away too early. Then we have variations of like fist means some teams say fist means I'm going for the ball.
Right. Sometimes they do open hand or fist.
Yeah. Fist generally means that I'm going to, as a blocker, you do whatever you want, defender. I'm just going to go ball. And a lot of beginner teams, I sometimes tell them to do that, because then what happens is that defender isn't trapped, and it teaches them to read. Yeah, it teaches them to read that hitter really well. And it's a good strategy. That way you get your blocking focus. I'm just going to try to block these guys or girls. Yeah. And then I'm just going to try to defend these. That can be a really, like, we've had good stretches. I remember when we played, we went with that because I had a good blocking partner, and he would just be like, I'm going for ball. And I'm like, cool, because I love defending. Yeah. And then we would pick up a lot. He would get a lot of stuff. Yeah, he would get a lot of stuff, and I'd get a lot of digs. Or he'd get a lot of touches, right? And then so that would help us get the ball up. So there's that. So fist is no block, going for ball. And then a lot of teams, the open hand means I'm not blocking and I'm going to peel. Yeah. And sometimes there's a peel that it's a planned peel where you're going to peel to the side that you usually dig on. Other times it's like I've called cross or line and now I've changed because their pass is so horrible. And then in which case the blocker has to remember to peel where they called. So because if they said they're blocking cross and now they're not blocking cross, that means their defender won't be there. Yeah. So they have to go in that direction. So these basically, if we were to sum up, I think we're getting technical, but the hand signals at the net are huge, and that's how players communicate. And those hand signals have now come into indoor a lot more than they used to. Now blockers indoor are giving their back row players indications of where they're blocking. Yeah. And that changes how backcourt defenses look big time. So hand signals, big difference. And then you were going to say something else. You said
I was.
Forgot what it was.
Might remember it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember.
I'm sure we're going to think of a ton when we're done too. We probably should have made a list before we started, but we think we're really good at this now. So
yeah, we were talking about hand signals and auditory, and I don't remember.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're just going to sit here for a bit. Well, you did mention too, the relationship between players. You were talking about how it's made you more positive communicator.
Yeah.
I think for sure. Like, so when you play beach, you become very mindful of the body language you're giving off and your reactions. Yeah. So I think that because there's just two players, there's so much invested in the energy you give off, and you quickly learn to become a better teammate on the beach. And if you don't learn to become a good teammate, then you end up with no partners and you end up losing a lot. You have to be ultra supportive of your partner. And here's why, because so I had my daughters played beach together, and it's a nightmare. They're like a year apart, basically a year and a bit apart. And I used to tell them, like, you can't crap on your partner in beach volleyball. It doesn't work because two reasons. One, if your goal is to get them to play better, then you're just making them feel worse and they're not going to play better. And two, you're going to be the moron messing up the next time. Yeah, that's right. So it leads to this whole, now it's you. And you're like, and now you're hoping, like I used to tell them all the time, are you secretly hoping that your sister messes up? And they're like, yeah. And I'm like, well, how are you going to win that? Like, you have to realize that it's you two against the world, right? Like, if you're rooting for your partner to mess up because their attitude. So like, it's you two against the world as a beach partnership. And the best partnerships are, yes, you can be hard on each other if you're both like, we get it. We're adults here. But you have to be supportive of them because they're going to be needing the psychological support, right? Beach is like, there's nowhere to hide. So you can either give them the like, sounds when they shank a ball, and they'll just shank 10 more, or you can be like, no worries, we got this, and then they'll feel better, and they'll play better at the end of the day,
depending on like how they respond, but you'll pick up on their personality because
that's true. We talked about we're gonna come up with some stuff to help teams.
People do respond differently to different types of support, I guess you want to call it,
support,
right?
Or some people some people like the hard ass approach, right? Hard butt approach. And some people like the softer approach. I think that generally speaking though, I think supportive teammate is like no worries.
Great place to start. Yeah.
High five. Yeah.
Good point. What is it? Yeah.
Yeah.
No worries.
I mean, mind you, I should be careful because my own daughter, one of them, doesn't like it when her sister's like, come on, we can do this. She's like, shut up, okay? Because she feels it's condescending, or she feels like
oh, is it because they're sisters though? Probably
it could be. It could be, yes, because you feel like you're better than me now by trying to urge me on. But yeah, it's a complicated thing. But the beach relationship, I think, is vital, and I think it's like it does, like you said a key thing. It makes you so much better indoor. It's way more supportive. Like I did know both my daughters, when they went back to their indoor teams, they were ultra positive on the court because they know they've been a victim of the bad thing, and they've been the proponent of the positive. So beach is like, it's like a marriage, right? Like we literally call it hubby wife in beach if you get ace down the middle, because it's the area of no communication.
Yeah,
it is a relationship. Those partnerships, and then man, it's a weird world too, where like you ditch a beach partner or you want to break up with a beach partner. It's like ending a relationship. Yeah. It's very difficult.
Asking someone else.
Well, we had a thing this summer where you were talking about, you were talking about playing just an event. Someone invited you to play another event. You go, oh man, it might be a really great thing to do. And I said, well,
think about it.
Think about your partner, because how would you feel if your partner went to go play another tournament? And it was innocent. You weren't doing it out of malice. It was just a neat opportunity. But
you pointed out to me,
your beach partner can feel slighted. It's like dating someone.
Yeah,
I remember like thinking that like if I wanted to go play a beach tournament with someone else, it was like you felt like you were cheating on your
yeah, you do.
That's how close the relationship is.
Or they do know about it. It's like, oh man. Hey, how did that tournament go? That was good. We won.
That's the worst. Oh my god.
No,
if you go play a beach tournament with someone else, you better not win, because then it's like
yeah. But likely, well, I shouldn't say that. Maybe you will win, but the more you play with your partner, like it gets better and better, because you start to understand their body language and say where their sets tend to go. You just get better at everything together. It really is. Yeah, it'd be great if we could play it all year round. Well,
I know that's the advantage of living in a place where that's why the best players move there, right? Like
Florida, California,
you have to go,
Brazil.
Yep, you have to go play somewhere sunny and warm all the time, and
like Norway.
Yes,
Sweden.
Some of the best teams in the world now on the international circuit are Norway, Sweden. Those beach hotbeds, and even Canada. I mean, let's face it. Teams
you're right.
Are doing well internationally, and they're like, but a lot of them live and train in the States now. No, I think that the barriers to beach, I think, are rooted in it's intimidating. I think for people when they don't, and there's a whole vibe of the beach too that's a little more. I think a lot of young beach players don't help. There was a little bit of that. Oh, you're an indoor player coming out here.
Well, you don't have the backup of a crew of people. Like you feel, once you get into it, you get on the court and you'll feel like naked in a way.
Yeah,
it's just you and your buddy, even more naked if it's your first time playing with them, right? You guys,
or if your shirt's off,
super naked, and it's a cold breeze.
Back to sunblock.
Yeah.
No, there's a mental difference for sure.
There's always more nervousness.
Well, there's
even now when I play.
Yeah, there's both. It's both though, right? Like it's great because it's just you.
Yeah.
And then it can be worse because it's just you. So there's no coach telling you can't serve here. We're gonna rotate you.
No coach.
There's no coach saying you can't pass. We're gonna libero you out. Or you're not setting. So it improves your all around game. It improves your confidence in a lot of the steps because you get to all those reps. But then there's the other side of there is no one there when you're there's no one else to take the the blame or to take you out of there when you're like struggling on passing,
Yeah.
especially. But I would say overall the positive aspect of that. So like, you know, a lot of this show, we talk about the coaching problem in volleyball, and that's what a lot of people are starting to talk about. There's great coaches everywhere, of course, but because there's so many more kids playing, there's going to be a lot fewer great coaches, and there's a lot of coaches that are just there for the wrong reasons.
Yeah.
And beach is the answer. So all those parents that are like that idea resonates with the idea that the coaching issue is there. The beach is your answer. So get your kid out there, because then they can work on all their skills and nobody's there.
It's so I love how that's just an inherent thing of beach. There's no coach, or there doesn't have to be.
Yeah,
you
there
can
can
literally
be.
just go and play.
Yeah, nobody's gonna sub you out. On the beach.
Yeah, and if you get a coach, you get to choose who they are,
Mm.
right? Like, again, maybe good and bad, but
well, and I think the key, like the more specialized indoor becomes, like this whole defensive specialist thing now, serving specialists, liberos, you can't pass middle player, you know what I mean? The more specialized indoor becomes, the more we're going to see, and this is why I think we are seeing beach rise in numbers, because there's no specialists on the beach.
Yeah.
Like, you know, can you imagine if they switched it to like liberos and blocking special? Like, no, there's no specialization on the beach. I mean, you can have like a split block team where one blocker, one defender.
Yeah.
But there's still split blocking teams on the beach, and there's still, you know, at the youth levels. So that's the way. That's where kids will find their freedom in volleyball. And like, so let's suppose you're like those middles we talked about.
I was literally just gonna say that could be the antidote.
You're the club in high school middle that never gets to pass.
That's one of the current ways to remedy that, because that's a problem that doesn't have a remedy at the moment.
Indoor, there's not.
It should. Well, we've talked about it.
Well, there is a remedy. But they're not going to change the rules.
No. Like, you shouldn't be using liberos till 16 or 17 or 17, 18 or something, and then everyone should kind of rotate. Like, make everyone play middle. Like it. Anyway, yeah, but. So
or let some middles pass. I mean,
or let them pass.
Well, to finish off,
what I mean,
to clear up that problem, the middle. We talked about this in a previous episode.
Keep them in.
The problem with the middle in high school and club is that they're getting liberoed out. So there's so many things going on wrong with that. So they never, as a backcourt player, get to see the front court middle make mistakes.
Well, one time.
What's that?
One time when they serve.
Yeah, no, but sorry. Well, yeah, that's true. But then they send them off into 5. They send them where the libero is. They don't even keep them in 6.
Yeah.
So it's kind of weird, right? So, but anyway, so the backcourt middle doesn't really have the advantage of really seeing the front court middle and how the shortcomings of the front court, or the consequences for being late or whatever.
Yeah.
But the more important thing is that middle never gets to pass. They get liberoed out. They never get to defend. And then when they go to college or university and they're like too short to be a middle there, and they're like, oh, you're a left side. Your right side,
but you can't pass.
But you don't know how to pass. So I think that's why we're seeing more right sides not passing now. It's pretty standard for right sides not passing, because they probably used to be club middles.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, you're not passing, and also maybe it lets them run a few more things. But anyway, but so those players though, if they are told they're left sides, they're not going to make a team because they've had 4 years or 5 years of being liberoed out. So that's where the beach fixes that, right? Also, like, what if they develop some really good hands on the beach? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you're 14 years old and they're labeling you, or 15 years old and they're labeling you as a certain position, but then you find out, oh man, I got some good hands here, or I got some good. I can block a lot more than I thought, or I can, do everything. I can serve better than I thought.
Well, yeah, like, or you're just tall and you're just really good at the whole game. Like, you could just be a tall left side. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
I love using the word condemned to the middle, because it's true.
No,
people do get
but today it's more like back then when we played before the libero. Even everybody was like, "Yeah, I don't want to play middle." But now it's even, you understand. There's so much more reason to not want to be a middle. Sadly today, because unless if you love the middle and that's what you want, and I don't think I can become a good passer. I don't think I can. But to be told that and labeled that at age 16,
I don't think
in
you can
a sport
determine
where
that.
you're like 28 is the peak, or mid 20s is the peak. That's so awful.
The door should always stay open until mid 20s at least.
And that's something that I think maybe that's another reason why the beach players got taller, because maybe they started coming out to play somewhere where hey, I can pass again. Yeah, coach, right? That might be a big factor. It did coincide, like, with the libero rule, coincided with the growth of tall players coming to the beach. Yeah, it really did. So like, because that's 99.
Yeah.
98, 99.
Yeah, it's same
That's
time.
when the beach got taller too. So I think that so parents listening, like, get your kid into the beach. There will be intimidation. I think the biggest factor we said off the top, the sand and the movement in the sand, is a huge exhausting thing that can really turn players off. But 3-4 weeks in, you get your sand legs, as we say, and then you're jumping a little better, you're hitting a little better. But if you don't wait 3-4 weeks, you will quit, because you can't move the same, and it's frustrating for indoor players the first time they come out. But there's so much freedom to be found on the beach.
Well, and you'll just have that. We can't really observe it, but like just being outdoors, like you and whoever, like you'll just feel better. Like there is
nature,
that.
The air outside versus the air in the gym.
It's so great to have a day out on the beach where you're trying your hardest and you still lose. It doesn't really matter, because it's still awesome to just be out there. And I don't know, you find kind of like-minded people as well. Mm-hmm. So that's always...
Yeah, no, the joy of nature. I mean, like your shirt, your hat says, what does your hat say today?
Oh,
nature's healing,
Hey, look at that.
Bam.
You can jump in a lake after. That's awesome thing.
Being outside. You're right. That is the joy of beach. Like you're outside in the air. You're usually in a beautiful setting. Like, even if it's a fake beach, it's still nice because there's sand. It feels like a beach, but you're in a beautiful setting. If you're at a lake or an ocean, and it's you look around, right? Even if you're having a bad day, you're like, well, at least I'm at the beach.
And there's a bunch of other people like you challenging themselves, trying hard, working hard on the sand. Like that feels great to be in that environment.
It's a really good community.
Yeah.
Beach volleyball. It can be. I mean, obviously there's the toxic, there's like everything else. There's like the cool surfers and but generally speaking, if they're all kind of working hard, then there's appreciation for other people working hard. So I think that's what you hope to tap into and hope to see as a beach player, finding your little tribe out there, right? It's funny because for us, we never went all in year round. Like we always came back to indoor. I like that cycle of volleyball, but I guess if your child wants to specialize, then nothing wrong with that too. Like if they want to go year round beach, I mean,
I know,
because that's a good path.
A lot of us who play both, I think out of the majority of them, if we were to pick one, it would be beach actually.
Yeah,
it's probably in a ratio of like 3-1, maybe. People would prefer beach than indoor, but I'd have to do more polls, more surveys.
Yeah. Well, I think so. Like, I mean, it's just it's a lot easier, I think, to go all in because you just need one other person, and when you do go indoor, it's almost like today, it's like luck, right? Like there's so many the coaching, the teammate issue, the parent, like there's a lot of things that can go wrong indoor these days, like the politics of your club.
The good thing is the club life is only, for me anyways, that's now the shorter portion of my volleyball life. Right. Club is becoming smaller and smaller each year because my adult, it feels, I don't even know, I only played for 4 years. It's just a blip for me. Nowadays it's easy to pick up either or.
Yeah. I think like just there's so many things that can go wrong in the club world. Yeah. So if you were to pick indoor, Melissa Humana-Paradis is one of the best beach players in the world, and she plays for Team Canada. And she played for York University in Canada. And she was told by the indoor national team that she'll never be able to set at the international level because she's too short. So then she went out on the beach and became the best setter in the world on the FIVB beach tour. Yeah. And she is now one of the best beach players in the world, best defenders, best setters. And she kind of used that. Like that's like when they said that to her, that's what motivated her to go to the beach and do this, right? Yeah. Even Sarah Pavin in Canada, using another Canadian player as an example, she was a great indoor player, but she knew that she would never get to the Olympics with the indoor women's national team in Canada. Great team, but they just weren't going to make it in the top, 16 or whatever it is that you need to make it to the Olympics. Is it even less than that? Maybe 12? I don't know. Maybe 12? But anyway.
Yeah, I think it is less than 16.
Yeah, I think so too. 16 sounds bigger. But she knew she wasn't going to, so she went to the beach late in life, and that's where she found her freedom, and that's where she found her. And then people marvel at how fast she became one of the best players in the world, right? So that's sort of where the beach. That's the story of beach. A lot, and the same with the U.S. team and countries all around the world. A lot of players that weren't going to have it indoor. but they have the well-rounded skill set. I think that's are willing to work on the well-rounded skill set because you got to be versatile.
Mm-hmm.
They went to the beach and found their success and found their freedom, right? Like it's a good vibe out there.
I'd love to find out like how many. There's probably not like how many like indoor high-level players. They probably play beach like for fun and stuff like that. But obviously, yeah, I'm just wondering like how many. Well, I guess if their indoor seasons are so consuming, you may not have time.
Like Karch Karai, right? He gave up 10 years.
Well, he had to either commit to one or the other. He couldn't like do both. Obviously,
yeah.
both seasons are. Well, the indoor season's so long, but
he found a different way to do both.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm going to do
best
this.
at one, then I'll be the best at the other when I'm done.
Yeah, and he's doing it with coaching. So
easy peasy.
Yeah.
Beach is just one of those. I mean, so did we cover the differences? Let's make sure we did that before we leave this whole topic.
So the elements to start with.
Elements, the structure, court size. We talked about all. I feel like there's more rule difference. Oh, the score. Score on the beach is 20.
Yeah.
We talked about multiples of 7 side changes, but we didn't clarify that that's because beach sets go to 21.
Yeah.
That's why you do the side change at 7s, not at like 10s or something like that. And then
is this the rule? So the coin toss at the start, the team who wins the coin toss, they get first choice of server side, and you if it is windy, you should pick side and pick the good side.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the rule is that so that's for the first set. Then the second set, the team who lost the coin toss
gets to choose.
They get first choice,
whatever they want,
right? And then they should do the same, pick the good side.
Yeah.
And then there's a new coin toss for the third.
Yeah, they do.
Right?
Yeah. Similar.
And then you're switching at 5 because it goes to 15. You said that, I think.
Yeah, third set I didn't say, but third set to 15. Beach is best 2 out of 3. They don't play best 3 of 5. Like indoor, in theory, adult volleyball. A lot of club parents might not know this, but because they play 2 out of 3 in youth, most places, but in professional and varsity volleyball, post-secondary volleyball, you play sets to best 3 of 5.
At the Olympics, is it only 2 out of 3, or they do 3
No,
of
they
5?
do 3 of 5. 3 of 5 as well. Yeah. Indoor. On the beach, it's best 2 of 3.
Always.
Yeah. Because it's a lot more tiring.
I know,
right?
training, yeah.
Yeah, that's the big difference. That's why the games go.
Yeah, if you go to 5,
5 on the beach, like you couldn't play multiple games.
I swear.
They do play more games though. Over the course of a weekend, they'll play best 2 to 3 matches all the time. When you're trying to look this up, look this up. Never happens. It's always best 2 to 3. Stop it! You're embarrassing the show. No, I'm just kidding. No, it's look it up.
I just don't trust you.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know why. But so best 2 to 3 to 21. Block counts as a touch. Court dimensions are different. The lines obviously are like fabric lines on the sand. Which sometimes you want to make sure that on a windy day you might put some sand on.
No, I thought you just
lines.
take your heel and just draw the lines.
You can do that too. You can do that too. Yeah. Are you finding anything there? Has there ever been a best 3 out of 5 on the beach, Eric?
The height of the net is 7'11" and 5/8 an inch.
So that's a men's height.
It's
the same as indoor.
And
the net height is the same.
Women's is 7'4" and 1/8 of an inch.
Yep.
The ball, spherical. Actually, so it weighs, the beach volleyball weighs 8.3 to 9 ounces. I don't know. I wish it said the indoor one. And it says best 2 out of 3. This is AVP rules though, so.
Why do you not watch beach volleyball?
I do watch beach volleyball.
Why are you questioning yourself? Why are you questioning yourself? That's the most disturbing part here, is that you're so.
I'm just wondering when I was watching the Olympics. I feel like.
No, your feelings are wrong. Sorry.
It's okay. You don't have to apologize.
Well, I'm sorry for you.
Not
sorry too.
Oh, that's not. Oh, that's just mean. True nature comes out.
What is that? You don't know. You don't have any friends. You don't have anything to live for, and that's why I feel sorry for you. That's Harry Potter to Voldemort.
Oh, why do you remember this?
Because I'm a bit of a. I'm a Potter. I don't know what they call it.
The AVP has a great breakdown on. This is Wilson.com. They do a great breakdown on all the rules
differences.
And differences. Yeah.
Oh shoot! Well, then what the hell we do this show for?
Well, I mean, just.
Tell people. There's Wilson.com. Hey, well, that's one of our sponsors.
Beach volleyball rules. Yeah.
Wilson is one of our sponsors.
Yeah. Just hide this.
Awkward. Anyway, so they can look that up at Wilson.com. A lot of differences between beach and indoor.
It's pretty
but it's not as fun as listening to us, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah. We look better than a website.
Yeah, we're good looking. So anything else? Scores? We're missing. I'm shocked at the level of.
No, we covered it all.
I know, but how late we came up with like, the score and
Well, yeah, but you said the thing of switching at sevens. And so
but I didn't
just felt
finish
like
that thought.
Yeah.
I should have went further. Yeah.
That's because I was rambling, cutting you off. I think.
No.
Something like that.
Don't take the blame.
Big difference in communication. There's no coach, and
there can be a coach. I mean, there is.
There can be.
Yeah, you can have a beach coach.
You should have.
But not the type of coach that will sub you out.
Yeah,
because they can't.
Yeah,
it's against the rules to sub in player.
Your court awareness is a bigger factor. Not that it is big in indoor, but it's
it's a little more like be here now in indoor, because it's going to be a crank, and they'll surprise you with a tip or something weird. But indoor, everybody has a lane versus beach. You want to be so hunkered down on the beach. You want to be ready to move, and so I think we can wrap that up now.
I think so.
What do you think? I think. Right?
So thank you, Wilson, for sponsoring this video.
Yeah, and thank you, Eric, for being here with me today. And thank you, me.
Yeah,
for being me. And thank you.
So Zuby today.
Thank you, Zuby.
Maybe a little extra Zuby.
Extra Zuby. I was a little extra Zuby.
Yeah.
I mean, doesn't everybody need a little extra Zuby? I can say that now. And thank you, Toupee. This episode is brought to you by
Fake Hair.
Frank's Toupees.
FakeHair.com.
Yep. And the nice thing is, toupee or not toupee. People called me out. They were like, hey, in the YouTube comments, I don't know if you read our YouTube comments, but they realized, they're like, Zuby's hair is too good too good to be real.
Yeah.
It's got to be fake. So they caught me. Yep.
Yeah.
It's toupee. Yep. And my pecs are implants.
All right, we're done.
Pechimplant.com. Another sponsor. Anywho, so we'll see you next time. I hope we covered the basics of beach for you and made you understand a little more.
Except
about
that one
game.
thing I had, but I forgot about it. So it's probably not
right. Probably not important.
Yeah.
Agreed. All right. See you next week.
What's the big idea?